Pause. Take a break. Reflect on life. Remember, you are strong. You are enough. You are capable. You are blessed. And you are loved. Your moment of greatness starts now.
In this episode, we will learn how to be successful entrepreneurs and better beings from an accomplished entrepreneur, adventurer, and endurance athlete. Welcome to the show, Adrian. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Toby. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Same here. Thank you so much for making out the time to have a soulful conversation with me. I'm happy that you're here today, and I'm happy that we were able to connect even before we started recording. And I'd just like us to start out with your story, like with your life journey so far. While preparing for this conversation, I was reading a little bit about you, and I found out that you went on a kind of journey to find your authentic self after experiencing a nervous breakdown at 19. So I don't know if you would like to share this journey with us, this experience with us, and also make us learn from this also.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at 19 years old, had a nervous breakdown. It was the last thing I was expecting because just 6 months prior, like life could not have been better. I had just returned from backpacking around Europe, so I went backpacking literally straight after my A levels. Like my last A level was 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, and by 9 a.m. I was in Paris drinking coffee, like literally straight after. And I had the
Yeah.
most amazing experience backpacking across Europe by myself, meeting loads of great people, seeing so much history and so much that Europe has to offer. I went through 12 countries, had an amazing time, came back, started the job, like exact job I wanted, and so life was great. So fast forward 6 months, and I'm there sitting in front of a doctor because I didn't understand what was going on. I wasn't
Mm.
sleeping. I was just like a nervous wreck. And she said, "Adrian, you're having a nervous breakdown." And I didn't understand what that meant, and I didn't really, I didn't really know how I sort of got there. And I remember being given loads of medication. So I had sleeping tablets, antidepressants, like the full works. And I went home. I was living with my parents, and I sat on my bed and I put out all of these sort of medication on my bed. I looked at them and I was like, that's not that's not my way. Like that's not the route I want to go here. Like I don't understand this, but I don't feel like instinctively that just taking those tablets is the right approach. And I can remember thinking very clearly that by not going that route, so taking the medication, it would be a much harder and longer path. But I felt that that was the path, the right one to take. And so that was really the beginning of a journey that lasted years of rebuilding myself, quite literally brick by brick. I'd lost all my confidence. I literally couldn't look anyone in the eye. And and just worked my way through that. But I look back on it now and think I'm so grateful for that experience because it brought out a strength and deepened an awareness of like myself and who I am and equally who I'm not. And I really feel it sort of laid the foundation for life after that. So
Yeah. Yes. Sometimes we have to go through some dark time to appreciate the light that we have in our life. And I'm so happy you were able to come out of that nervous breakdown and live the life that you have right now. Well,
thank you.
from that experience of yours, how would you advise someone out there who is, currently experiencing a nervous breakdown or something similar to that? What piece of advice would you give such a person?
Yeah, it's a great question. I the first bit of advice that I wish I could have said to myself or would have heard when I was going through that was it is it's okay, like everything's okay, like you may not understand this but that's okay, like this is just there's a gift in there somewhere. May not feel like it at a time, but there is a silver lining in there somewhere, and just to process just take each day as it comes and to process each moment as it comes and not to put too much pressure on yourself and just keep remembering it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Like mental health as a topic has become far more accepted and there's so much more awareness and support out there. And yeah, do reach out. The worst thing you can do is probably what I did, which was just a bit of a lone wolf. Try and do it by yourself. That I think added years to getting back to a place where I would consider sort of. And I say this sort of begrudgingly, but sort of like normal. Like this, it's the wrong word, but hopefully you can yeah understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Reach out for support. There's some great support out there, and it's there for a reason.
Are you enjoying this episode? Kindly subscribe, share, and leave a review. Thank you.
Yes, I like that. I mean, don't be shy to call out for help if you need help.
Yeah.
And yes, and just stay, hold on the line. Don't give up. Don't give up. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. From your story, you went, backpacking even before you had this nervous breakdown. That means you've been into this sport, into this active kind of life, basically. Because I was going to ask you that, okay, what's motivated you to become an endurance athlete? But I noticed you've already been doing such, I mean, you're already on that path already from the onset. Like, what started it all? Like, is it what motivated you to become an
You
athlete?
know what? I love that question, the specific question you've asked, because nowadays I'm doing some fairly extreme endurance events, which yeah, I'd love to sort of share more about, but
Mm,
very rarely do people ask like where did it begin? And it all started with a half marathon that I signed up for because I was overweight. My lifestyle was all over the place. I was drinking far too much. I was in my early 20s and I felt that I needed a goal, something to focus on and to work on something that had a clear finish line,
mm,
more so just to get myself in a little bit of a better shape, not just physically, but just snap out of that sort of like party phase and everything that comes with being in your early 20s. And that's where it started. And I finished the half marathon, and when I finished it, I really enjoyed it, and I was surprised that I had done it. And after finishing it, I felt that, you know what, I think I could do a full marathon, and it went from there. And every time I completed an event, I just had this sort of insight that I think I could do another one, but slightly further and slightly bigger. And that's taught me one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned, which is as you sort of move forward and achieve things, like your horizons open. So it's kind of like finishing a chapter in a book. You can't just jump to chapter 10 and expect to have like a full comprehension of the story or what's in the book. You need to start at chapter 1, and when you get that, it opens up chapter 2 and it sort of elevates from there.
yes. Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah. And how was that, changed your life? Like, being like, before we started recording, we talked about what you did, I think 2023, November. Like, the cycling, the running and the kayaking. And you've done other sporting activities too. Now you're no longer overweight. You're in the best shape I could ever think you could be. I don't know. Um, so apart from that, how was that, how was being active, being an endurance athlete, changed your life and also influenced the way you carry out your businesses and carry out your work?
Yeah, I mean it's everything. And we was talking about this before, like before the show, which is for me, like I'm in a place now where I exercise every day, but I'm not exercising for like physical benefits. I'm certainly not exercising because I want my appearance to look in any particular way, like like my physique. I'm exercising for my mind and what that does. And the best way to describe this is that for a lot of us, we wake up in the morning and we get out of bed and we are naturally like very few of us jump out of bed and are in like top spirits, myself included. You know, we get out of bed and we feel groggy. We tend to have negative feelings and like emotions that not every day, but they do come up. And when you look at it biologically, there's actually a biological reason for that, which is we just spent anywhere from 6 to 8 or 9 hours laying down, so there's less oxygen going around our blood, going around our brain, so we're not fully oxygenated, which is why we feel groggy when we wake up. But then what seems to be quite common is that we wake up and then we go straight into family mode. You go straight into dad mode, straight into mum mode, straight into work mode. We check our emails on our phones while we're still in bed. And so what I sort of discovered, and it's not my discovery, but it's like my personal discovery and that personal sort of revelation was that I was very much in that cycle, and I was waking up, and I was waking up essentially like a level 2, maybe a level 3 version of who I am. But the big shift I made was that I started getting up earlier and I would use that time to focus on me. So I would read and then I would exercise and I'd do a number of other things. And that changed everything for me because by the time I was coming back from the gym, walking through the door at 7 a.m., I'm walking through and I'm more elevated, for want of a better word. So I'm walking through that door and I'm like a level 7, level 8 version of myself. And so then you're going into family mode, going into dad mode, going into husband mode, and I could visibly see the difference in myself, and that had a direct knock-on effect with everything: the relationship with my daughter, relationship with my family, most definitely with my work. It just changed everything. So going back to like the endurance stuff, I have and I participate in these events primarily for the same reason I signed up for the half marathon, to give a goal to work towards and to keep the lifestyle in check, because I want to be working from a higher version of myself. And the final thing I'll say on this, Toby, is that I've since sort of started to combine that with other passions in my life, like traveling and exploring and just wanting to live a full life, which is why I've gone to sort of quite extreme places doing these type of events, because it's just like, why not? Why
Yeah.
not? Just make most of it while you can.
Oh yes. And one thing you said, I think it's for the second time now, is about having a goal set for you. Like you went on that marathon and also um the the endurance sport that you do, also like having that goal set, like okay, this is where the finish line is going to be, and then you working hard towards getting that. And like you said already, or from what I've understood, that also helps you in other areas of your life, basically. Like, okay, this is what I want to achieve in life. This is who I want to become in life. This is how I want to be seen. And then you do everything you have to do. You run that race, you swim the river, the ocean to get to that point where you want to be. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm now at a stage where I do these events because I know that it will have like each event I do, I know will change me in a positive way, and for example, like I'm very active on Instagram, and last year I was running across north of England, like a ultra marathon from the east coast to the west coast, following Hadrian's Wall, and I was sort of documenting the whole thing on Instagram, and I've got this video which I think I'm at like the 50th mile, saying like this is so tough, but this is exactly why I'm doing this, and I know for a fact that when I come through this the other side, that this is going to have like it's going to change me, it's going to have a direct impact on like the business, family. I'm going to be a different person after this, and so that goal has sort of expanded, I guess. So it's not just crossing the finish line, but it's also um again like working to pull out and bring out a higher version of myself that can then experience life from a different perspective.
Yes, yes. And on this journey of, getting to your higher self, are there like ways we could discover, for example, our core strengths and maybe areas that we have to adjust, improve, or things that we have to, let go of, basically?
Mm, yeah, there's definitely a lot of it's a great word, and I'm going through this a lot at the moment. So, particularly over the Christmas period, I sort of recognise that yeah, in my life, I was going into a new season. Like I could just sense it. Like this is a new season now, and there's been a lot of changes that have happened and that I'm proactively making. But with that comes a recognition that there's also aspects of yourself that you have to let go of in order to step into like something higher. And even this morning, I absolutely swear on the way to the gym, and during the gym, I had my phone out and I was listing like like areas in my character, like me as a person, that I felt needed work and needed development. So just from like observations or like observing myself over the last 12 months, I'm like, I need to work on this, I need to work on this, I need to work on this, like, and that's what this sort of approach to life, I guess, does, is that it makes you so aware of that, and also an understanding that until I work on those, there will I will continue to hit the same glass ceiling. And unfortunately, some people spend their whole life hitting that same glass ceiling. And if you want to push forward and sort of achieve and do these different things in other areas, not just about achievements, but if you just want to be that higher self, then you have to address this. Like you have to address yourself.
Yeah. I like the, the illustration you made with like the glass ceiling. From my own experience, I know that, for example, sometimes when I'm in a place of reflection, I have that feeling that, yeah, this thing I have to change, this thing I have to let go of, this way there's some things I have to improve on, or maybe make use of some strengths that I have. But then because I'm enjoying my comfort zone at the moment and I'm just enjoying the way things are, I just keep on hitting the glass ceiling like you just rightfully said. And it could be frustrating because I know the solution to what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not taking the steps I need to take because I'm comfortable. And when I hit the gas, and I'm like, oh my God, frustrated again with myself that I'm not reaching the levels I'm meant to be reaching at that moment. So I don't know, Adrian, my friend, is there a way you could advise someone like me, to break out of this loop of knowing what to do, but not doing it because you are so comfortable or you are
Yeah,
scared of letting go?
that's what I was gonna say because like the other side of that comfort of that coin with comfort is the fear, and I'm hitting this the whole time. Like, I'm hitting those glass ceilings, and I look at myself, and again going back to those list of like character, like areas of my character I want to develop. Some of them I've been like trying to develop for months, maybe even years for some of them, but they're still not there because for that particular like aspect, I'm sort of stuck in that zone. But really, when I like peel past that, I'm like, it's fear. It's fear that's keeping it like keeping you there, and it ultimately comes down to like a decision, a decisive choice of I'm going to move past this. And with that decision is like a letting go. And the letting go is almost like a subconscious. You don't have to consciously try to let go. When you truly decide in this area of my life, no, I'm gonna address that and I'm gonna step into that new that new aspect of myself that I want, then the fear tends to like fall away, as does like the letting go. And what's most surprising is that when you step into it, it's so like it just feels so easier and simpler than you've previously thought, because quite often it's the anticipation of it and the thought of it that is the worst part. But when you truly decide like, no, I'm going to address this, and just it could just be one component. For example, you're always late. Like it just could be one thing like, no, I'm going to be on time, I'm going to hold the commitment to myself, because it's disrespectful to other people and it's disrespectful to me, just that one thing, when you truly decide that, it's amazing how it just falls away, and yeah, you sort of step into that.
Yeah. So we should know that we have to overcome that fear and be intentional. Like that's what I'm hearing from you right now. Be
Yeah.
intentional about that. Yes. Wow, that's good. And talking about, you're analyzing your characters and things you want to change and all of that. I'm sure one also looks into is our habits and maybe some tools that one has been using so far in life. Can you share some of the life changing habits and tools that's helped you to where you are right now?
Absolutely. So, the biggest thing that has changed my life, and it's a popular sort of concept, is that like morning routine and how I structure the first part of my day. Because I know that if I get that bit right, then it's a very different day. So it is getting up earlier. Um, for me, I started by getting up at 6 o'clock. That's where it started for me, and just reading like 10 pages of book, just reading. And I started to notice changes coming from that. It wasn't so much from the reading, but it was the fact that I was consciously doing something for me and taking time for me, and I had no outside distractions, no like sort of family or um anyone sort of pulling on my time. I was off social media. It was just for me. And I started to notice those differences like very quickly, like within a couple of weeks. So much so that it led me to be thinking, oh, what if I got up at 5:45, so just 15 minutes earlier? And what if I just added like some meditation in there, or some visualizing, and again it sort of compounded and went further to the point now where every day I get up at 4 a.m. I read, I meditate, I have a rolling 2-year vision that I've mapped out for myself. So 4 different areas of my life, like home and family, career and business, fun and recreation, and like friends and stuff like that. And so I look at where I want to be in 2 years, and I reread that every single day. I go, as mentioned, sort of go to the gym and exercise. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the gym. That's my personal choice because I enjoy doing that. It could be a 30-minute walk, and that's where I started. Went out for a walk with my dog for 30 minutes while the world is still sleeping, and it just changed my life. So these type of things can, like, they seem quite simple, but if you consistently do them, then they can change, like truly change your day and how you're feeling about yourself very, very quickly. And this got to the point where this was becoming so powerful for me that I actually essentially sort of pulled together my own app. So I track everything on my own app now. So my daily habits. So once I've done it, it ticks off, it ticks off, it ticks off. And last year I opened this up to like some friends and family who were seeing these like changes and asking, how you doing this? And so they're on there as well. And it's been amazing seeing the changes that they have gone through. Like I've one person who's completely given up alcohol. Another one who's gone through the most horrendous, like life-changing experiences, like all happened at once, and come out the other side just, a completely different person because they had the basics done. They were taking time every day for them. So yeah, I wouldn't underestimate this, like in the slightest. It's so powerful.
Yes. Thanks so much for sharing that. And now I'm very curious to know about this app of yours. Like, what's the name? How can I get have access to it also?
Yeah. So it's called Elevate Your Life. Yeah, the best place to find out on about it is actually my Instagram, because I was talking about before we started recording.
Yeah.
I'm very active on there, but I literally post like every part of that routine, so people can yeah, get a sort of an insight into the things I'm actually doing. And it's been amazing having like quite a lot of messages of people saying, oh, I'm now getting up early, or I'm now doing this and I'm doing this, and then hearing their stories of yeah, just what impact it's having for them. So yeah.
Yes. So for anyone who is interested and also curious like I am, I'll place the link to your Instagram in the show notes of this episode. So I encourage everyone to check it out. I've checked it out myself. I'm still checking it out. It's opened somewhere here on my tab. Also, and also you have a link tree link there on your Instagram where people can also check out the business that you help people with business acquisition and help people with building up their businesses also. So I would like us to talk about that also a little bit so that by the time people are visiting your Instagram page and they find out about that, they'll be like, oh, well, I was learning about personal development from him. I never knew he was doing business acquisition also. So can you tell us how you got into, buying and selling businesses and yeah, how is it going?
Yeah, it's quite remarkable, really, because when I was in my teenage years, my late teenage years, I always sort of thought, and I even said this to friends who remind me of this. Like, I always used to say, yeah, I'm going to buy and sell businesses when I'm older, and it was so like ludicrous because there was like no context for it. No one in the family had a business. Like, there was just no logical reason why I would go into that or where that would come from. But I always had this idea that that's what I would do. And my journey there was sort of quite long and windy. So I essentially sort of wanted to start a business first. I wanted to do a startup because I kind of felt it was like a rite of passage that there was skills you would learn doing a startup that would like sort of form a foundation for buying and selling businesses. You certainly don't have to go down that path. Like, you can just sort of go into it. But that was just what I instinctively felt was my path. But as it turns out, I am a terrible startup entrepreneur. So I had 12 failed startups over a 10-year period. It was a very painful, long and painful journey. And my last sort of startup was probably the most successful in the sense that it didn't fail, but it wasn't quite a success. So I had a small team of people, but I wasn't making any money. I was working every hour under the sun. Yeah, I wasn't in a very good place with it all my life. And then I discovered I was going to be a dad, and that just sort of changed everything for me. So my daughter Evie, she's 4 years old now, and when I discovered I was going to be a dad, I sort of took a lot of time out and reflected on like what type of dad did I want to be. Like, for me, I've always wanted to be like a hands-on dad, and what type of role model, and all of these other sort of questions that go through a lot of sort of new parents' minds. And as part of that, I looked at my plan, like what was the plan, and I realised that nothing had actually changed. I still wanted to buy businesses and to go down that path. But I also realised that like now was the time. Like, if I was going to do it, then I better get on and start doing it. And so yeah, that was really the start for me. That was yeah. So it was about 5 years ago. Yeah, it's about 5 years ago. I sort of ventured down that path, and I sort of learned the basics of, okay, so what's the process for buying a business? And with that under my belt, I just went for it, and I was quite lucky in a way because 3 months after like doing some initial training and getting some education, because you do need education with stuff like this. There's
Mm,
risks, and you need to know how to protect yourself. um, I ended up acquiring my first company, which was a 30-year-old business that specialized in exit planning and building value in businesses before they sell.
mm,
But then this business also sold the companies as well. So it sold around 150 million pounds worth of small businesses. So within a period of 12 months, I'd bought my first business, but I'd also learned how to build value in businesses and to sell them. So it gave me the full like life cycle. Like, it was so yeah, it was just crazy how it turned out.
mm,
And yeah, and so since then I've gone on, I've made multiple acquisitions, I've had a few exits, I've had a few train wrecks, like real failures with some of the acquisitions. But I've also used that skill set to build a group of companies in the children's education space, which is largely inspired by my daughter. And yeah, that's grown quite quickly. We currently educate 10,000 under 5 year olds every academic term. And yes, it's still growing.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's like a school system or just a children group.
It primarily focuses on the early years, so like 6 months up to about 5 years old, and is activity based. So when before a child starts school, there's like a couple of different options. There's nursery, there's preschool, but a lot of new parents tend to go to local activities like classes. One for the social aspect, to meet other parents in a similar boat, but also to develop their children, to help them like interact with other kids and to do different activities that they may not be able to do at home or may not have the equipment for at home. So it's children's activities base. Our two main brands there is one of them is focused on speech and language communication for under 5 years old. And the other one is music and movement, so like musical instruments and stuff like that.
That's good. So for some out there, for example, who like to maybe start a business or acquire a business or buy a business, yeah, acquire a business. Um, what are the necessary things that we have to look out for? What are the things that we need to know before we start a business or decide to buy a business?
Yeah, I mean, starting a business is very different to buying one. The thing to remember when you start a business, and I very much learned this the hard way several times over, was that with startups, there's a lot of like facts out there about the high failure rate of startups. The real reason behind that is that when you start a business from nothing, you have to figure everything out. Like literally everything. You have to figure out what customers you're serving, what you're providing them. You have to figure out how you're going to provide it to them in a way that generates a profit. You have to figure out how to reach them, so marketing. You have to figure out, well, what's the sales process? When someone inquires, what do you do? Like, do you send them an email? Do you pick up the phone? Like, what's that process? You have to figure out the like how to organize the finances, which most small businesses, like even like long established ones, still don't like have a full grasp on. You have to figure out everything, and to top it off, you have to figure it out before you run out of money. And most startups are bootstrapped, so they don't have a lot of money in the first place. And what really happens is that they quite simply run out of money before they can figure all this stuff out. And so when buying a business, it's a very different game you're playing because all of this stuff has already been figured out. You've already got a customer base, they've already got multiple ways of marketing to them, to selling to them. They've got their suppliers in place. You've got the full piece. But what you also have is a business owner. It's normally the person who started that business who might be 10, 15, 20 plus years into their journey, and for whatever reason they want to change. Sometimes it's things like retirement, sometimes it's things, and this is very common, that something has happened in their personal life that has caused a change of priorities. Ill health is a common one, sort of cancer, someone unexpectedly passing away. It does make you sort of wake up and think, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life? And so there it creates this dynamic where you've got a business where all that's been figured out, but the owner has motivations to move on. So when you're buying businesses, the key skill you need, particularly small businesses, so under 5 million in annual revenue, like you just have to be good with people. And I really can't emphasize that enough. Like you have to really want to understand what's going on here. Like they want to show you the business, but when I'm speaking to them, I want to know about why, why are you selling this? Why are you selling this now? Why are we speaking? What's really happening? And you tend to find that there's normally one or two, maybe three sort of problems that they have that they just don't want to deal with, they want to move on from. And so if you're able to sort of structure a deal in a way that they're happy and that you're happy, and you're happy primarily by not putting any, or if if you do put a tiny amount of your own capital in because you want to protect your risk, then you can essentially jump to the end of the finish line, you know, jump over all of that startup sort of journey. And if you're quite good at going in and solving those problems, then you can have a fairly good business on your hand. And the previous owners are happy because they get to go on and do what they want to do.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Nice. That sounds good in theory, I believe. I'm sure it's quite challenging in practice, as in when you have to actually put it in practice. Yeah.
It's you know what, buying the business is the easy part. It really is. The hard part is what you do when you have it, and I'm talking more specifically about when you have an existing business and you want to buy another business and put the two together, like that integration piece. That is challenging. But yeah, the if you're just looking to buy one business and to run that or to do whatever you want, then it's I'm not going to say it's simple, but it's not as hard as it may first appear.
Mm. And earlier you're talking about, there's some risk involved. So what am I meant to look out for? What are the risks that are involved in buying the business?
So the first thing to understand is that every business has problems. Like every business, there's no such thing as a problem-free business. So you going in as a potential new owner of that business, like you need to identify what are the problems here. And the seller, the person who's looking to sell that business, they will know the problems, or some of them at least. They will tell you some of them, but they probably won't tell you all of them because they ultimately want to sell their business. And that's human nature. So understanding that is a component, but there's also an awareness that there will be problems in there that the owner isn't even aware of. And so that can be a risk because you need to know as much as you can, like what are those problems to clearly identify them so that you can ultimately solve them.
Mm.
And so the way we protect ourselves with that is by not selling the house or emptying our savings account and giving it all to the owner, and then they're sort of running off into the sunset, and you're left with a business that has a bunch of problems. That's not
Mm.
the way to do this. All of my acquisitions, I've done essentially like no money down acquisitions. So most of them I bought for £1 of my own money. It doesn't mean the business was valued at £1. It just means that on day one I only paid £1, and the rest of the value of the business was paid over a period of time, or it was financed in different ways. So that in itself can mitigate a huge amount of risk, particularly if you put in certain agreements, such as if any nasties in the business come up as you step in as a new owner and it's like legacy, so it's from the previous owner, then
Mm.
that can be taken off like what is owed to the owner for the business. And so
Mm.
to give you an example here, my last acquisition it had a couple million revenue in terms of annual revenue, had 10 people in the business, and I structured the deal in a way and so that if anything came up, then it would be taken off the money that was due to the seller. And you know, it's like hundreds of thousands that was paid for this business, but again, not on day one.
Mm.
And as it turned out, in the first 3 months, we had about £100,000 worth of stuff that was taken off of what was owed because it all came up, you see.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
that's that's one of the main risks. The other risk is just people, and particularly if you've got a business with, you know, three, four, five people plus in there. Some of them will be against a new owner. Doesn't matter if it's you or someone else. They simply don't want to be part of that. And if you've got a business that has five people in and one of them leaves, that's 20% of your workforce. And so you just need to understand how you're going to, again, protect yourself and to fill any gaps should that happen.
Yeah. So one has to, I think from what we said, the whole conversation with, have that personal development already in place so that you can able to face your day as a business owner with the full force and with like maybe a centered mind or a focused mind also. Yeah. But
Yeah.
you help people with this business acquisition also. So what's the best way people could reach out to you, for example, if they want to acquire a business, and maybe how do you help people also in this whole process of acquiring a business and maybe growing the business?
Yeah, so yeah, I've worked with a number of people, helping them to learn the ropes on how to do this, not just on the buy-in, but what you do once you've got the business. How do you handle it? How do you structure it in such a way that you're protected?
Mm,
So I've been doing that for quite a while, probably a bit more informally, but I've sort of like formalized it sort of like last year. So the best way to find out about that is probably to go to my Instagram. I've got events coming up. I've got other like free stuff that people can download to find out a lot more detail behind this before they even like think about, is this something I want to do? Like, there's a lot of information. Plus, I'm very active on Instagram, and as you mentioned earlier, like literally show like my life, like the inside deals, like conversations I'm having, like acquisition type conversations, and I just try to like pull back the curtain and educate people on this, not just the good bits, but the bad bits, like the reality of what this is like. So the best place to find that is my handle is Adrian J Knight, and that's Knight with a K.
Adrian J Knight, Knight with a K. Link one more time is in the show notes of this episode. Please click on the link, follow Adrian, and reach out to him also. I believe your DM is open for people to reach out to you. So if they have
Y- y-
questions,
Yeah, I love speaking to people over sort of DMs, and yeah, finding about for who they are, what they're doing, what their plans are. I really thoroughly enjoy that. So yeah, please do reach out, and yeah, I tend to reach out first anyway to say hello if someone follows. So yeah, it's always great to talk.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for everything I've learned from you. I mean, from you this evening or at this time of recording. I've learned, for example, that I could just invest. I did the one of the business. I could just pay £1 or €1, and as time goes by, I, I will pay up for the overall for the business. That's a bit relieving because sometimes I used to think I must have the whole millions of pounds or euro or naira or whatever currency that you might be spending to be able to start or to buy a business. But that sounds good. That sounds good that you don't have to pay it up front.
That's the big sort of like misconception about this amongst small business owners, is why I like to be quite vocal about this, is because a lot of people, myself included for a long time, think that buying another business is only for like the big corporates and the large companies, but it's a really like viable tool for small business owners, and if you learn to do it in the right way, then it can dramatically grow your business like significantly, and in a way that is arguably safer because you're not having to spend loads of money on marketing to get new customers that may or may not become customers. Like, you've got an established business, you just need to find the right one and structure the deal in a way that works for the seller of that business, but also for yourself, and that normally involves very little, if any, capital, investment from you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for teaching me that. I really appreciate that. As a closing remark, I don't know if you have any word you would like to share with the listeners out there, something that maybe we didn't talk about, or something you still want everyone out there to learn or to hold on to from this conversation.
Yeah, I think just to revisit the like carving time in your day for you, that it's so simple, yet so few people do it. But if you consistently do it, and the best way to do that is just to get up a little bit earlier. It certainly doesn't have to be 4 a.m. 15 minutes, ideally like half an hour earlier, and don't sit on social media, don't lay in bed, but get out, read a book, go for a walk, do some exercise, but do that every day. You will be amazed at how quickly you start to feel differently. And so, like, if you are, for example, having a nervous breakdown or in a state of depression or just struggling with some mental health, honestly, it's one of the best things that you can do. Like truly, it's life changing and it's free. You don't need to. I mean, you don't need an app. You can just do it, but like you're worth it. Like do it, and yeah, you won't look back.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. One more time, the link to your Instagram is in the show notes of this episode. So I encourage anyone out there to just click on it, copy it, reach out, and yeah, become a better being and maybe become a business owner also. Thank you so much, Adrian, for this. It was wonderful speaking with you.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.
Wow, you made it to the very end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm grateful for your time, your love, and your contributions. Subscribe, like, review, and share this podcast. God bless you. Bye. Bye.